When it comes to Disney, the first thing that pops into most people's minds is the amazing cartoons and movies that have shaped the childhoods of billions. But did you know that hidden within these movies are some shocking facts that could potentially ruin your childhood memories?
What are you going to do with these old toys?
Without a doubt, some of the most surprising facts that few people have noticed are related to one of the company's recent blockbuster hits, Frozen. And even though Elsa and Anna suffered greatly after losing their parents in a tragic shipwreck, we won't be focusing on them right now. Instead, let's talk about the future king of Arendelle, Kristoff. First off, it's important to point out that Sven, the reindeer, and Anna's future husband have been best friends since they were very young. You might know that in the Nordic countries, during the time the story takes place, people who worked in tough jobs like Kristoff needed to wear very warm clothing. But what you probably didn't know is that these clothes were almost exclusively made from reindeer hide. So, it's very likely that Kristoff made his clothes using the skin of one of Sven's relatives. But on top of that, another very sad fact from the movie, which almost no one talks about, is that both Sven and Kristoff were raised by a female troll. This indicates that both were either abandoned or orphans. In Sven's case, we can't be sure, but as for Anna's fiancé, we learn from Disney's published books that his mother asked King Troll Pabby to use his magic, just like he did with Anna, to erase his memory. After the troll fulfilled her request, she left, abandoning her only son to fend for himself in a frozen land. Now that's what we can call a cold-hearted mother. These are just the first of the 11 shocking Disney movie facts that we're going to reveal to you today. So jump on board, because Cinewave is just getting started. Snow White was Disney's first feature film and remains one of its greatest successes to this day. However, something about the ending of The Princess and the Seven Dwarfs movie is extremely awkward, to say the least. When we see the protagonist eat the poisoned apple, we know that only true love's first kiss could save her from that state. And that's exactly what the prince does, freeing the girl from the curse and marrying her, creating Disney's first happily ever after. However, it wouldn't be wrong to say that when the prince kissed Snow White, she was technically dead. I don't know about you, but that sounds kind of creepy, don't you think? Without a doubt, Toy Story has been one of the most memorable animated franchises for many people, including me. But there's a fact about the story that has started to bother me over time. We know that the toys have their own lives, intelligence, and awareness of everything that happens around them. And don't worry, we're not going to talk about how these toys came to life or anything like that, but rather about the future. If you think about it, we can say that the lives of all the toys will last forever, or at least until they are destroyed, as nearly happened in Toy Story 3. However, if nothing like that happens and they stay with their owners throughout their lives and are well taken care of, eventually the toys will see their owners grow up, get married, have children, and years later, age and eventually pass away. After all, that's the circle of life. So, the truth is that all of this will happen with Andy while Woody, Buzz, and the gang remain in the world, alive and having adventures. That's definitely at least a little bit melancholy, don't you think? And if you've ever watched and enjoyed any animated movie made by the House of Mickey, comment below with #Disney and tell us your favorite film from the company. We'd love to know. Another classic from Disney Studios is Pinocchio, the first animated adaptation of the wooden puppet who becomes a real boy. However, if you watch the 1940 film, you'll notice some incredibly disturbing scenes. The one that probably causes the most discomfort is seeing Pinocchio and other boys in a place called Pleasure Island, where, believe it or not, children are shown drinking, smoking, and engaging in delinquent behavior without any supervision or correction. Even though the message is that such things should never happen, we end up seeing things that Disney would likely never include in any of their movies today. The society in Zootopia is absolutely fascinating, making us imagine what it would really be like if species of all different sizes could coexist peacefully. However, we can't turn a blind eye to reality and not ask ourselves, after all, how do the carnivorous animals in Zootopia feed themselves? It's hard to imagine, for example, Mayor Lionheart eating grass like Assistant Mayor Bellwether, because even though it's nice to think that herbivores and carnivores can live together in harmony, the biology of lions, bears, and wolves hasn't changed. They still need to eat meat. This is something I honestly don't want to dwell on, but if this question ever gets answered, it might reveal something quite unsettling. Doesn't anyone in Zootopia like bacon or eat eggs? Actually, along the same lines of Zootopia's dilemma, we can add one of Disney's greatest and best-loved classics to this list of doubts, albeit in a slightly different way. Ever since I was a child, there's always been something about The Lion King that made me think. Right at the beginning of the movie, we see the beautiful and emotional presentation of Simba, the son of King Mufasa and Queen Sarabi. All the animals of the Pride Lands are present to pay tribute to the future king of the jungle. But here's the thing, among the animals present, besides giraffes, monkeys, and elephants, we also see wildebeests and zebras, all celebrating the birth of Mufasa's heir. The issue is that zebras and wildebeests are the primary food source for lions and lionesses. So if I belong to one of those species, I'd definitely be as far away as possible from a place full of lions, because chances are that little Simba, or at least his mom, will need to eat very soon, and some of those subjects are probably on the menu this week. You're probably familiar with the story of Peter Pan, the boy who lives in Neverland, where no one ever grows up, allowing children to remain kids and play forever. In Neverland, Peter leads a group of kids known as the Lost Boys, who fight alongside him and go on various adventures. But if we stop to think about it, we'll realize that both the past and future of all these characters are especially grim, particularly Peter Pan's. According to the original story, all the children who ended up in Neverland were actually babies who fell out of their prams in the nursery, and, after 7 days without being rescued, found themselves in the land where Tinkerbell and Peter Pan live. They grew up only to a certain age and will never become adults. In this context, Wendy and her brothers go to Neverland, have their adventures, and then return to their home and parents. But the other boys stay in Neverland with Peter Pan at the end of the film. This implies that the children's parents don't know where they are, or even if they're still alive, and years later, they're still searching for them. Another thing is that they'll never grow up to have families of their own, like wives and children. And the worst part is definitely Peter's situation. He could easily be seen as a kind of kidnapper for taking all these children to this magical fantasy island. Have you ever stopped to think about all that? If you enjoy animated movies and cartoons, the best thing you can do is hit the subscribe button down below. That way you won't miss out on our upcoming amazing videos either. Elemental, much like Zootopia, presents an incredible world that shows us how characters from different backgrounds can live together, fall in love, and even start a family, just like Ember and Wade. And even though water and fire are opposites, the creators of the story found a clever way to show us how they could make it work. However, if we stop to think about it, we can't say the same for beings of different elements. For example, a couple where one partner is from the fire element and the other from the air element could never kiss, since heat causes hot air to rise, which is the same principle used to make balloons fly. So just by getting close, the air person would automatically start floating away, even if they didn't want to. It's sad to say this, but some couples would have a really hard time staying together in the world of Elemental. Cinderella definitely deserves a spot among the movies that made Disney the powerhouse of princess films, but her story has two extremely creepy details involving the same character, her stepmother's cat. First of all, his name is enough to give you chills. He's called Lucifer, which is literally the name of the devil. Seriously, who names their pet that? And to top it off, it seems like the cat really lives up to his name because he's downright evil. However, in the original version of the film, the villain's fate was supposed to be much more gruesome. After being chased by Bruno, Cinderella's loyal dog, the cat falls from a tower several stories high, and according to the laws of gravity, the poor feline would have ended up as a splattered mess, if you catch my drift. But Disney decided that was way too dark for a children's movie, and they were right. So the scene was cut from the final version of the film. The cat did make appearances in Cinderella 2 and Cinderella 3, leaving no doubt that he survived. But we can clearly see that the original plan was for him to end up in hell, meeting the one who inspired his name. 101 Dalmatians is another Disney classic from the era where the company didn't just make movies for innocent kids. Proof of this is that if you remember the villain of the movie, Cruella de Vil, whose name couldn't be more fitting, had a plan to kidnap Dalmatian puppies for one sole purpose, to make a coat. Yes, you heard that right. The terrifying socialite's plan was to take the lives of over 100 adorable puppies just to use their fur for a coat. Seriously, that's one of the most sinister things you'll ever see in a children's movie. But thanks to Captain and especially Sergeant Tibbs, that plan didn't work, and the puppies were rescued and returned to their families. And what does Disney do? They make a movie about one of the most evil villains I've ever seen. Sometimes I really don't understand Disney. Seriously. Sorry if we just ruined a part of your childhood, but I couldn't go through this alone. To help cheer you up, we've picked out 2 really good videos that are popping up on your screen right now. Click on one of them and get ready, because some good stuff is coming your way. See you there!